Hey, welcome to COMPSCI 1MD3 tutorial 2. We'll be starting at 10:30, so you guys can mute me out or keep me on another tab until then. But yeah, I just thought I'd get the link up and running early just to make sure it was easy to access. Yeah, we can totally go over assignment questions. Nick did say in the lesson plan that we can't do them, but we can totally go over them, and I can give some hints if that works. But first, there were some other problems that Nick said we wanted to do. But yeah, Christina, if you want to, why don't you just like post or comment what questions you want me to look at, and then I can talk about them for a bit. Does that sound good? Okay, it is 10:30, so we are now going to kick off today's lesson. So actually, let me just get my screen up. My bad. So I add my screen, and then I'm going to go to the YouTube link. All right. And I'm going to navigate down to the description of the video where you can see two links. So the first link is of today's slides, and the second link has the website where we will be doing some coding challenges today. All right. So let me just go through the slides real quick. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about is that midterm 1 is on October 4th. So the midterm will be open book, but you cannot collaborate with your peers, but you can use Stack Overflow and stuff, I suppose. Just the key thing is don't copy code, right? Yeah, it has to be your own original code, but obviously because you're using a computer, you can leverage resources that way. It did say in the course syllabus that it's open book, so I guess Nick is okay with it being open book though, so you can use your notes and such. Yeah, so just make sure to study hard for the midterm. I'd say you guys should have it like in the bag if it's, you have all day to get it done. I'm confident you guys will do well, and I'm expecting to see a lot of 12s, but no worries if you guys don't get that. Yeah, let me just double check the next set was open book just before I put that out there in the world. Yeah, so if we go to the course syllabus and we navigate to the midterm section, that's right here. Yeah, it says it's take home and that it's open book, but collaboration is not allowed. Okay, cool. So yeah, good luck for the midterm. That's on October 4th in about 2 weeks. So in order to prep for the midterm, because it'll be submitted on Jupyter Hub, the best way is to just redo Jupyter Hub assignments or do questions on this new website called codingbat.com. Now, personally, having seen previous midterms, I think that Jupyter Hub is a better gauge of the difficulty, but we'll do both today just to make sure you guys are acclimatized. Okay, so if you go to this link or the link you can find in the description, we can see or find all of the coding problems that we'll be doing today. So on slide 3 is a list of all the ones ideally we want to attempt, but we only have 50 minutes, so we might cut a few out, especially if certain students want to talk about the assignment. Cool. Okay, so go to codingbat.com and then hit on Python and then hit warm up 1, and we'll do a really easy one first called sleep in. Okay, so essentially with CodingBat, what you have to do is make a custom function that solves the given problem. So here, our given problem is we have to make a function that has two inputs, weekday and vacation. And based on some logic, we have to return the correct value, either true or false. And essentially, we just finish the function, hit go, and CodingBat will test our function by putting in some test cases and tell us how many we got correct. So very similar to Jupyter Hub. All right. So let's take a look at this first question. It says the parameter weekday is true if it is a weekday, and the parameter vacation is true if we are on vacation. We sleep in if it is not a weekday or we're on vacation. Return true if we sleep in. So I hope this one is fairly simple and we can test this out. So I'll give you guys 2 minutes to get this done, and then I'll take it up. And in the meantime, let me check out the comments. Okay, yeah, so you've been having trouble with 3B. Is an invalid syntax, and the bonus question kind of confuses me. Okay, cool. Let me pull that up while you guys are doing this question, and then we can talk about it at the end of class, if that works with you. So let me turn on my VPN. So once again, you're working on question sleep in, and try to get that done by 10:36. Okay, it is 10:36. Let's take a crack at this question. So this one is pretty easy. I'm assuming that most of you guys solved this question using an if statement in 2 lines. We can actually do it in 1 line too, but we can talk about that later. But yeah, it's fairly simple. I have 2 parameters, weekday and vacation, and I have to return true if it is not a weekday or if vacation is true. So that's very simple. So I can just say if weekday is equal to false, and don't forget that equals in coding is with 2 equal signs, or vacation is equal to true. So in that case, we want to return true, otherwise return false. And so what this code is saying is that if it is not a weekday or it is a vacation, then we can sleep in and we should return true, and the code will terminate at this line. Otherwise, if this condition is false, we want to return false instead. Okay, let's test that out. Awesome. Okay, any questions? Cool. Okay, let's try out another problem. Okay, parrot trouble. So I'm going to go back to warm-up 1, and I'm going to open up the question parrot trouble. Okay, this is a very similar one, actually. So in this question, we have a loud talking parrot, and we have a function with 2 parameters, the hour parameter and we have the true or false parameter of whether or not the parrot is talking. So we have talking, which is true or false, depending on whether or not the parrot is talking, and the hour of the day. And we have to return true if we are in trouble. We are in trouble if the parrot is talking at a specific time of the day. Okay, so again, you can try this out. So you can try to do this with if statements, or you can try to do it without if statements potentially, with just one return statement. But once again, 2 minutes to get it done, and then we'll take it up. And in the meantime, I'll try to get my Jupyter Hub opened. Okay, so you guys have until 10:40 to get this done. Should take you like 20 seconds, not 2 minutes, I imagine, because you guys are so smart already. And I forgot my Jupyter Hub credentials. That's great. All right, let's take up this question. Okay, once again, pretty easy. So we just have two parameters. We have true or false, whether or not the parrot is talking, and then we have the hour parameter for the time of the day. So my logic is that if the parrot is talking and the hour value is within some range, then I should return true. Otherwise, I should return false. Okay, so with that in mind, the question is fairly simple to get done. Okay, so once again, there are a couple of ways we can get this done. I think having a nested if statement is probably the easiest way to visualize this, right? So I can just have two if statements, one inside the other. I can say if the parrot is talking, and say if talking. And then, so if the parrot is talking, if the talking value is set to true, and then I can have another if statement saying if hour is less than 7, or hour is greater than 20. Under those conditions, we should return true. And if the parrot is not talking during this period, then we should return false. Cool. Oh, my bad. Force of habit. Oh, sorry. Okay, so now we can run the code and we get all correct. So do they have the same solution? Okay, so you can also do it also in one line. This is a bit more elegant, but I think like for when we're beginning coding, it might be more confusing this way. But yeah, so I think a good challenge is for each of the questions, I'll probably do them in the most logical way. But if you can, try to cut down the number of lines of code. That'd be pretty cool. Normally, that'd be the challenge I give Candy for in class, but that can't happen now. Yeah. Okay, so let us try out another question while I check the comments. Yeah, you can totally combine the two if statements in one, but in all honesty, Viral, the best way to do this type of question is in one line, right? So we can just do all of these tests under one condition. However, I understand if at the beginning this is a bit confusing, but likewise, if you wanted to, you could put this entire condition under one if statement, or just put it as a return. That works too. Okay, cool. And what was the other question? Okay, so I think I'm doing monkey trouble. Yeah, actually, monkey trouble is not in the list. Is XOR not a valid bool operator? I don't think there's an exclusive OR option in Python. Yeah, I don't. If you check the, if you open up idle, for example, you can see all of the Python keywords, and I don't think XOR is a Python option, right? It's just the OR command. But yeah, XOR is exclusive OR, but I don't think that specific syntax exists in Python. So I think you can get it done with just ORs and ANDs, hopefully. All right, so let's do the next question. The next question is combo string. This one is a bit more tough, but I'm confident you guys can still get it pretty easily. So if I go to string 1 and I open up combo string. Okay, so in this question, we have two strings, A and B, and we have to return a concatenated string in the form of the shorter string, then the longer string, then the shorter string once again. Right, so very simple logic. So let's say I have two strings, hello and hi, then I should have hi on the outside, either end, and hello on the inside. Okay, so take a few minutes and try to get that question done. If you guys don't mind, I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen for a second so I can get my Jupyter Hub credentials once again. But yeah, take until 10:46 and get combo string done. And I'm going to turn off my screen for a minute if that's okay. But yeah, try to get combo string done by 10:46, all right? I'm going to stop my screen. Sorry about that. Cool. You guys have to see my face instead. Sorry. All right. So yeah, we're trying. So in case you just tuned in at this point, we're trying to get combo string question done. Combo string on CodingBat. So you guys can check out the slides to find out that specific question. And where are the login credentials? Awesome. Great. And I can turn my screen back on now for this last minute that you guys are attempting this question. And my computer froze, so hopefully, I don't know if my stream cut out too. That's not good. Okay, I guess I can try logging back in. Sorry about that. Some small technical difficulties because of my computer. So let me open up Chrome again. I think my camera might still be streaming because it's on, but yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to get the website back open. Yeah, sorry about that. My computer just kind of crashed on me. Okay, let's get this question done. So I'm going to go back to the stream. I'm going to grab the link so I can go to CodingBat, and let's do combo string. Do I have two things open now? It's so silly. Let me get rid of this one. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to go to codingbat.com. Cool. Okay, and it was under string one. Yeah, this one's super simple. I'm confident you guys can do these all without me. Okay, so go to combo string, and right, so with this question, we have two strings, string A and string B, and we can just do some simple logic to determine which string should go first. So I'm going to start out by just initializing some empty variable. Let's call it out for output, and I'll initialize it as an empty string. So that's just two quotes. And then I'll have a simple if statement saying that if the length of the first string is greater than the length of the second string, what we can do is we can just have out equal to b plus a plus b. Otherwise, we can have the opposite. We can have out equal to a plus b plus a. And then we can return our concatenated string. So that's one way to get it done. Or not, my bad. It's yeah, this is the correct. Oh, sorry, return out, my bad. There we go. So yeah, pretty simple. We're just doing some basic if statements to determine how the string should be outputted. You can also cut this down. We can put the return statements directly in the if statements, but you don't have to. But you guys can try that out if you want to. But just like with your midterms and your assignments, as long as the code works, you get full marks. It doesn't matter how you get there, as long as it has the correct output, because it's all auto-graded, you get 100%. Okay, is everyone familiar with the length function already, or is that something I should go over? Yeah, so let's just talk about the length function for a bit. So Python has this really cool function called the length function. And what the length function does, I can give you the description with the help function. What the length function does is it returns the length of a list or a string. So let's say I have a string and that's equal to, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The length function will return the length of any string I pass in. So if I pass in the string s, I get the length as 7. And that's extremely useful for getting these coding questions done. Awesome. Cool. All right, let's do another coding question. Which one should we do next? I wasted a bit of time back there. I know Christina has her Jupyter Hub question, so maybe we can skip ahead a bit. Let me just go to the slides to see which one I had planned next. Oh, sorry. So let's go to the slides. So squirrel play, that's a bit easy. Okay, let's do lucky sum. Okay, lucky sum, we can go back to the Python section and go to logic 2, and we can do lucky sum. Okay, so it says given 3 int values a, b, or c, return their sum. However, if one of the values is 13, then it does not count towards the sum, and the values to its right do not count as well. All right, so we have our function lucky sum. We have 3 values, and we have to return not the sum, but the lucky sum. So take until 10:54, try it out, and then we'll work on it together. Cool? Okay, and then if we want, I don't know if you guys want to do this monkey question too, but yeah, if the student who was doing that monkey question with the XOR monkey trouble, if you're still not getting the solution, you can just email me and I'll help you with the solution. Just because we're a bit tight on time, if that's cool with you, and I'll just work with you individually to get that solution, Nathan. All right, so take until 10:54, get that question done, and I will take a look at the Jupyter Hub thing. All right, so this was assignment 1, I assume. And then let's go to okay, take until 10:54 to get that question done, and then we'll take it up together. Okay, 3B. Yeah, this doesn't look too bad, so we can talk about it a bit. Okay, but first let's get the lucky sum question done. So this question, once again, just using the logic and concepts you already know. It's pretty simple. So I can get this done in a couple of ways. I'm not sure if this is the most elegant way, but my initial reaction was to have just a few if statements or if else if statements. So I can test out or game out all of the conditions. So assuming that the first value a is equal to 13, in that case, what should we return if a is equal to 13? We should return 0, right? Because that means that a and all of the values to the right of a do not count. So we should return 0. Okay, under the next condition, if b is equal to 13, in that case, what should we return? We should return just a, because that means that if b is equal to 13, then both b and c should be neglected. And under the last condition, else if c is equal to 13, then we should return just a plus b, because that means c is equal to 13, which means it should be neglected. Cool. And then if none of these conditions are true, that means that none of the values among the three are equal to 13. And under that case, you can just return a plus b plus c. Awesome. That's one way to get this question done. So to be honest, at the very beginning, I thought the best way to get this done would be like using a for loop or something to just iterate through all of the values. But since then, I kind of thought that it was just easier with the statements. But yeah, I guess a for loop or while loop would work too. But I think that just makes the code more clunky. Cool. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it's not a tuple. Okay, let us just do lone sum, and then we can do some questions here, and then we can do the Jupyter Hub questions, okay? So we're going to do lone sum next under logic 2. So let's go to Python, logic 2, lone sum, and let's try to get this done before 11. So this says, given three int values a, b, and c, return their sum. However, if one of the values is the same as another one of the values, it does not count towards the sum. So basically, we're given three values, and we can only add up the values if they are unique among them. Okay, so you can try them out. Once again, keep in mind there are only three values in the in the group. Yeah, I think I shouldn't have done this one actually because it's so similar to Lucky Sum. But yeah, you can try it out, take a crack at it, and then we'll get it done before 11. Now I'm going to go back to Christina's question. Okay. Okay, so I guess to be honest with your question, if it's a syntax issue, I would have to probably like see what code you're putting in exactly to understand what's causing the issue. So if you want, you can email me the code and I can take a look at that specifically. But I can also just kind of run through the question really quickly because it's just like it's not that complicated. So I think if you guys can do these coding back questions, you should be able to get the assignment done too. And you said the bonus kind of confuses me. Okay, sure, we can take a look at that too. All right, so we have until 11 to get this done. So keep on cracking at it while I try to do your guys' assignment. It's too complex for me. Yeah, I think so. The bonus question is actually pretty easy. Like there's no logic to it. You're just plugging in values into a function. I think why you guys might have gotten a bit confused is because they used words like for in the description. So maybe like you guys thought you had to use a for loop or something. But yeah, sure, I can just kind of go through that really quickly if you like. Okay, let's get the lonesome question done. Lonesome, oh, that's sad. It's a bit of a pun. Okay, so yeah, once again, pretty easy. So let us just assume that we're starting off with some total value. Let's say that is 0 to begin with. I'm going to initialize a variable as 0. You don't have to do it this way, but it's a simple way to get this done. And once again, very similar to the last question, I'll just have a series of if and else if statements. So I will say if A not, so I'll say if A is not equal to B and A is not equal to C, well then total, A should be added to the total. A plus equals, total plus equals A. And then I'm just going to repeat the same logic for all of the other if statements. Right, so likewise, if B is not equal to A and B is not equal to C, well then B should be added to the total. And likewise, if C is not equal to B and C is not equal to A, well then C should be added to the total. And then at the end, I just return the total sum. Oh, sorry. Let's go. There we go. Perfect. Okay, I think that's the last coding back question that we need to do today. So let's try to just get some list questions done, some lists and for loop questions, and then we'll do the Jupyter Up stuff, okay? So let's try to get this done by 11:15, and then you can spend like 5-10 minutes on Jupyter Hub if that works. Okay, so let's do question 1 and 2 are pretty easy. I think we can already do that. Let's do question 3 instead. So in this question, we are given a nested list of the following format. So I can literally just copy and paste this list into my code, okay? And I have to make a Python program, not a function, just a basic program that will take that list and count the number of black dogs in the entire list. All right, so I think I'm going to do this question with you all. And then question 4, we can do independently if that works with you. Cool. Okay, let's get this done. So I'm going to open up idle or just any Python environment. And I'm going to make a new program. And I will save this as Q4. And I'll put it in your special tutorial section, which is T03. Cool. This is Q4, Q3, my bad, Q3. Okay, so once again, I can start by just copying this list into my code. And this list is very special because it's a nested list. So do you guys know what a nested list means in Python? So a nested list is just when you have a list inside of a list. So I can actually reformat this just to make it a bit simpler for you guys to see. Let me full screen actually. Okay, so let me just enter every time we have a new list. So we have this list of elements, and each of the elements within the list is another list. Cool. And so I can actually index and call values of the list pretty easily, right? So I can just save my code, and I'll just kind of play around with the list for a bit so we understand the logic. So let's just go over the basics of a list first. So a list is just data stored between two square brackets. right? So let's say I have some list L, and that's equal to, it could be a list of numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And so now I have all of these values stored inside a list L. So a list is just a convenient way to store many values. I can access a specific value in a list by just indexing that value. So if I call, let's say, L square bracket 0, that will pull up the 0th index or the first index of a list, because in code, we start counting from 0. Right? If I want to pull up the last element of this list, I can just type in L square bracket and then the index of the last element. So that would be 0, 1, 2, 3. Cool. I can store strings in a list as well. So if I want to, I can have a list of strings. Let's say I can have A, then I can have AA, then I can have BBB, just random gibberish. And I can, and I can call values of the list in the same way, but make sure to actually put an equal sign in the code, or else that will cause problems. And I can call an index by just typing the list variable name, followed by a square bracket and that index. So if I want to call the middle element, what index should I pass in? What is the index of the middle element? It's 1. Cool. Awesome. Lists can also store both numbers and strings at the same time, right? So I can have a list L, and that has some numbers in it, like 1, 2, 3, and some strings. And yeah, it's all fine. It doesn't have to be homogeneous. We can have different values in there too. And this list is initialized, no problem. Cool. Now the cool thing about lists is not only can we store ints and strings in lists, we can store other lists inside of lists. It's like list inception, right? So if I want to, I can have some list L. I'll call this a nested list just to make that more obvious. And I can say this list is composed itself of lists. Right? Each list is just 2 square brackets, and then I can put some values inside of the list. So an empty initialized list is just 2 square brackets, and then I can add some values. Let's say 1, 2, 3. The first one, we can have letters in the second one, green, green, blue, and we can have other numbers in the last one. Cool. Super simple. Now, how do I call a specific value in a nested list? Right, I can call one of the greater lists by just typing in the index. Right, for example, if I want the first list, all I have to do is pass in the 0th index, and that gives me the first list. How do I get a specific value within that list? Well, I can use an index once again, right? So I can write, if I want to get this value right here too, I just write the index of the general list, and then I write square bracket, the index of the specific value in that list, which in this case would be 1. I get 2. Cool, so that's how we can store data, multiple pieces of data into one variable, and that's how we can access the data as need be with indexing. Okay, so with this in mind, let's get the neighborhood dogs question done. So in this question, we have our list. We need to write a Python program that iterates through the list and counts the number of black dogs in the entire nested list. Okay, cool. And I guess then the last thing I want to talk about is for loops in Python. So for loops are a pretty cool tool. And what a for loop does, it's a really easy way to iterate through a list. So with this code, I'm going to start off by just writing for, let's say house, let's say just dogs, or let's say, group underscore of underscore dogs. So I'm going to initialize a new variable called this group of dogs, and I'll say in neighborhood dogs. So what this code does is it iterates through the list neighborhood dogs one element at a time, and each element is represented by the variable groups of dogs. Right, so to show you what this does, I can just print out group of dogs, and that'll print out each element one at a time. So this way we can iterate through the list, at least at the first level. Right, and so what my code does is it prints out each element of the list, each sublist or nested list one at a time. But then we have to go one step further. So how can I now print out the individual elements of each nested list? What can I do? Any ideas? Let me check the comments. Okay, so a similar idea to a list inside of a list, you can do a for loop inside of a for loop, a nested for loop. So what I can do is I can type for each dog in group of dogs. Now my for loop is going to iterate through each sublist, and the variable that represents the elements will be dog. And I can test this out by printing the variable name. And let's test this out. Cool. And now what happens is my main for loop iterates through the main list one element at a time, and my nested for loop iterates through the nested lists, once again, one element at a time. Cool. Okay, so those are the new concepts that we have to talk about in order to get this question done, and that Nick already talked about, I guess. But I'm sure you guys all go to tutorial, right? Okay, so with this in mind, let's now get the question done. So the question asked us to count all of the black dogs in the entire list. So I'm going to make a counter called black, and I'll set the counter equal to 0 initially. So this is my new variable called black, which is going to be used for storing the number of black dogs in the list. And then my code is pretty simple. So I'm just going to say if the substring black is in my dog element, we want to increment the black counter by 1, black plus equals 1. And then at the end, I can just print out at the list has, and I'll write the black variable followed by another substring, black dogs. Of course, because these are different types, instant strings, we can connect them with a comma. Cool. All right, there. I'm not sure if you guys remember how we can use the in keyword for strings as well, but it's a pretty cool concept. But basically, let's say we have some substring. Hello, my name is Swale, and I can make that equal to sentence. And I can make that equal to sentence. I can use the in keyword to check to see if a specific substring is within that bigger string. So for example, I can say Swale in sentence, the variable sentence, which we have defined right here. And if this condition is true, it will return true. If it's false, it will return false. Right, because it's true, it returns true. If I typed in James or Nick in sentence, it returns false. Okay, and so we're using the same logic here to determine if a dog is black, if it has black in its string, defined string. Okay, so let's test this code out. So how many black dogs do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I'm assuming it's 7 if I can count correctly. Okay, so let's run the code. And it has 7 dogs. Awesome. Cool. Okay, so with that in mind, I think we have the ability and hopefully the time to get these last questions done. Okay, I guess we can skip question 4 if you guys you can do it on your own time. But basically, it's the exact same question, but this time instead of counting the number of black dogs in a list, you have to count the number of dogs of a specific color. Okay, and so we can use the input function to allow the user to input a specific color, and then we count dogs of that color. Cool. Okay, and then the next question I want to talk about is the translate light question. So this function takes a sentence in the form of a string. So our input is some string, and the function outputs that string with each word inverted. Okay, so in order to get this question done, I'm going to teach you guys one last function for today, which is the split function. Okay, and then for Christina, I'll leave the stream on for some extra time, and we'll talk about the Jupyter Hub question after. So we probably won't get into that till like 11:20. Sorry, but yeah, I'll stay on for an extra little while to talk about it. But yeah, let's get the translate light question done. So here I have some string as the input, and I have to output that string with each individual word inverted. All right, so there are 2 ways we can get this done. One by iterating through the entire string, one element at a time. And then we can check to see whenever there is a space. And when there is a space, we know that's a new word and start inverting. Or we can take the Pythonic approach, which is also the easy approach. And what we can do is we can use something called the split function. So split is a Python function that is an element of the string class. So any string element has this method. So let's say I have my string today is Wednesday. Today is Wednesday. Okay. If I type in s.split for my string variable name, followed by the method name split, what that does is it splits all of the elements on the list by some delimiter or separator. So let's say if my delimiter is a space, that means all of my elements will be made into a list divided by these spaces. Right? So if I want to, I can make my list words. I can make that equal to s.split. And now I have this list that contains all of the words in the sentence. Right? So the delimiter does not have to be a space. It can be any character. Right? So for example, if I have a list that says, I don't know, some numbers, 21, comma, 24, comma, 23. And if I make that equal to a variable, actually, or actually I can just type, so now I can make a list, let's say L. This is equal to the strings 21, 24, 23, all separated by commas. I can type dot split followed by a specific delimiter, which in this case is a comma. And now L contains the following list elements. So again, it doesn't have to be a comma or a space. It can be 2, and my list would be made accordingly. All right, so with this logic, we can get this question done pretty easily. So I'm going to make a new piece of code, new program, and I'll save this as Q5. And I'll start off by allowing the user to input a sentence. So I'll say s is equal to str input, and I'll prompt the user by saying, please enter in a sentence. And then what I'll do is I'll split the sentence s along some delimiter, in this case, a space. So I get all of the individual words. All right, so I will say my list words, that is equal to s.split with a space to define where each word begins. And then I will have a for loop that allows me to iterate through all of the words in my words list. And I can just print this out first to test out my code to make sure it works correctly. Okay, so if I copy in the string and I run my code, and yeah, I pass in my string, may the force be with you, and I now have this list of each individual word in the string. So next, what I have to do is I have to invert all of these strings. So once again, there is an easy way to do this. There is a hard way to do this, and then there is a Pythonic way to do this, which is the easy way. So in Python, it's really easy to invert strings using the string indexing feature. So let's say I have a string. S is equal to hello. So if I want to access a specific element with an S, I would call the index of that element. Let's say I want to access the E. I would type in 1, and I get E. However, I can also access the indexes counting backwards as well. Right, so if I type in a -1, I get the O. Likewise, I can splice strings as need be. So for example, if I only want the E to the L, I can just type in 1 to show the starting of my splice, followed by a colon to show the ending of the splice. So that would be 0, 1, 2, 3, and then 4 because the last one is not included. That gives me the middle part that I was trying to splice out of the string. But the last cool feature we can talk about is the step function, or the step parameter, where the first two elements refer to the beginning and ending of the splice, and by default, they're set to the ends if they're not passed in. The last parameter refers to the step, which by default is 1, but if I make that, for example, 2, what that does is it only takes every second element in the string. Cool? So likewise, what I can also do, in the same way how I can count negative, I can also make my step a negative value. And what that does is it inverts the string. Neat. Yeah, so this, in my opinion, is the easiest way to manipulate strings using the splicing part of the indexing. But again, if you want to just make a second for loop and iterate through the string again, that's what you'd have to do in like C or some other coding language. So you're welcome to do that too. But I think this is easier. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to print out word ::, -1, and this will be the inverted word. Right, so if I enter in my sentence, may the force be with you. Now all of the letters are inverted. And I think they wanted us to return it as like one print statement. So what I can do is I can initialize a new string. Let's say new sentence is equal to 2 quotation marks. And then instead of printing out word, I can just append it or concatenate it to the new sentence variable. And at the end of my code, I can print out this variable. Let me just change the format to make it more Pythonic and not JavaScript type. And I can print out new sentence. Okay, let's run the code. May the force be with you. Oh, and I should probably include spaces as well. My bad. There we go. Awesome. Okay, let's do Jupyter Hub now. Sorry about the wait, Christina. So any questions in the chat? Not really. Yeah, so that's all of the questions I wanted to talk about today. Sorry about going 4 minutes overboard, but obviously if you guys ever want to tune out, I'm not taking attendance. Leave whenever you want to. Yeah, so we'll do Christina's question now. So Christina was talking about 3B, and she was also talking about the bonus question. Both of which I think you're just a bit confused maybe about the wording of the question. I think you can probably do the actually make the code. Yeah, Nick said specifically not to like take up questions in class, so sorry about that. If this was an in-person tutorial that wasn't recorded, I probably could help out more. But yeah, so if I go to content and if I go to Jupyter Hub, I can open that up. But first, I have to turn on VPN. And is Christina still here, by the way? Oh, you figured it out. Wow, you wasted my... Well then. No, I'm kidding. Cool. So you figured out 3B. So did you still want help with the bonus question? Because the bonus question is actually really, really simple. Yeah, there's no logic to it. So let me just kind of go over that really quickly in case anyone else is still confused. So if I go to A1 and I open up A1, yeah, I can scroll to the bottom to see the bonus question. And you guys are lucky because normally these are a lot tougher. But yeah, so the question is pretty simple. Basically, all we have to do is just like sub in all the values into the function. So we have this function here, and all we have to do is sub in all the values into that function. All right, so pretty simple, straightforward, and I'm confident you guys can get it done. So once again, we have our function here that defines the time. We have the parameters of the time, and we just sub that in. And then if you want to like access specific elements like pi and log, you can use the math function, math library to get that. Okay. Do the exponents matter? Yeah. So you have to like it's the exact same. You have to plug in this exact same formula into your code, and you have to sub in the correct values. So you have to use the exponents. Yeah. So do we know how to do exponents in Python? Is that something we want to talk about? Like for the value of k. Well, I don't see any exponents on k, so I'm not totally sure what you mean by that. Do you mean like Kelvin? I think that's just how they tried to like minimize or make it easier to write the code. Right? So like with a -1, it's like having a k on the denominator sign. Yeah, so I think yeah, the only exponent I see next to a k is not for the thermal conductivity k, but for the Kelvin k. Cool. Okay, any other questions about the bonus? So yeah, Christina, all you have to do is, but k has k. Yeah, but okay, so maybe where you guys got confused is we have this k here that denotes thermal conductivity that we see in the question, and then we have this other k here that's a unit of the property, right? So we have joules and we have grams and we have Kelvin, right? So this k denotes thermal conductivity. This k just denotes the temperature value, Kelvin. Right, so maybe I guess they should have used different k's to denote them, but it's not the same value, right? So like, would this make sense? K is equal to k, like that would be a redundant, well, actually not. Well, that would be a weird way of writing a question. So this k and this k are different. Okay, but again, all we have to do is just take t and sub in the all the values for t. All right. The k has yeah, so I won't go into like yeah, so I would say the key thing I hope we're not getting confused by is that we have 1k in the equation that denotes the thermal conductivity, and that's where we sub in the thermal conductivity value. And then here we have another k that just denotes the temperature Kelvin. So these are separate k's. right? And so we don't need to, and so yeah, it's just a unit. You don't need to sub in any value. You just have to make sure the units are correct when you're plugging values into the equation. So what I would do is I'd probably just write out this equation by hand, and I would try plugging in the values to make sure that like I'm plugging in the values correctly and that things are converted correctly. Does that sound cool? Solving for the ones in the question. Uh, yeah. So like so all we really have to do here is we just have to plug in values into T and then just return T. That's it. So this is just really a matter, I'd say, of one, of knowing how to plug in values to an equation, and two, for Python specifically, knowing how to like use log and do exponents and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm kind of surprised this is a bonus question, to be honest, but you know, get an easy one for the week. I made each value equal to the numbers given, getting like 100 off the actual amount. Yeah, so I'd probably consider whether things are like being converted correctly if you're getting 100 off the actual amount. But yeah, all we have to do here is just take our existing equation and plug in the values for like C, for Q, for K, but just make sure that when you're plugging in those values, it's like the correct units for those values. So if you're getting the wrong values, I'd probably just write out the equation and try plugging in the values to make sure that I'm getting the right values. And if I'm not, then I would take a look at the units to see if like it's at the right scale. Okay, any other questions about this, about bonus? But yeah, the bonus one, I was expecting something a lot more crazy because these get a lot tougher down the line. But I think you guys got this one. And Christina said she got 3B, so I think we're good. Okay, so I'll stay on for like another minute, and if there are no questions, I'll head out. But yeah, just to I guess kind of hopefully explain your question a bit better, V-Girl, is that if you're getting the wrong values when plugging them in to the, if you're getting the wrong answer when plugging in the values to the equation, I would just try writing out that equation by hand to ensure I'm plugging in the values correctly. Okay. Yeah. So for the assignments, we give you some practice test cases that you can check with. So 2 or 3 practice ones. But then there are additional test cases that we don't show you that you get marked on. And generally, the additional test cases are like edge cases. They're things you're more likely to not consider. So just getting like 100% on the practice, like on the given test cases, doesn't guarantee you're right, because if that was the case, you guys could just hard code your questions to like get those answers. So there are some hidden test cases that you get tested on eventually. Right. So for bonus, for example, there are like 2 hidden test cases in addition to like the ones we give you, like 47 and 4 and 47 and 20 and so on. There are other hidden test cases for values that will pass in. Okay, any other questions? If not, I will tune out. Okay, all right, take care, guys. Have a good rest of your week. Bye.